Welcome to Determined to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Mullarney. You may also know me as the Unique Connector. So I'm really excited to have this guest on today. And I first want to start off with some research that I was doing. And I found that 28% of CFOs these days in the US are females. So I thought that was a very interesting um, I can't even think of the word that I want to think, but of the percentage of it, because it's shocking to me, to be honest. So I'm so excited to have a CFO right here in front of me to chat about this today. So welcome to the show, Amy. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here today.
So let's talk about your journey and being a CFO and being a female leader of a bank. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you became a CFO.
Absolutely. Out of college, I worked for a public accounting firm and, started with all the grunt work that you would normally do in a public accounting firm. But I audited financial institutions. So I got some really great exposure to a number of different institutions throughout, really the Midwest. And at the time, had a client that had been going through an acquisition of a failed institution. They were growing, they essentially doubled in size overnight. And they were looking for some help to, bring on staff and really expand their team. And at the time, I was, I had just gotten married. We were looking to start a family. It made a lot of sense to leave the public accounting world and all the hours that came with it. So made the jump and went into, a private institution and essentially had the really fantastic opportunity to build up their entire accounting practice within the bank. I was able to touch pretty much every aspect of the institution, whether it was accounting or loan servicing, deposit ops, because when they grew so quickly, there was a lot of operations and procedures that needed some attention. I think the combination of that public accounting background and the operational background that I was able to get in those roles, really elevated me into the controller position and then eventually into the CFO position when the president of that bank retired and the CFO was promoted to president and I was promoted to CFO. So, ultimately I was the CFO of that bank for about 4 years. And they started looking at selling. The owner of the bank was getting to a point where he was ready to cash out and get some liquidity for his family. And so I had met a couple people here at Capital Bank, and their CFO was looking at retiring. So they threw my name into the hat. And after a couple of conversations, it made a lot of sense for me to make the move over here to Capital. And I've been here for about 4 years as the CFO. I oversee lots of different areas of the bank, though. It's not just the finance department. I oversee HR and IT, and recently brought on retail and marketing underneath kind of my umbrella of oversight. So,
Ugh. Well, I love that you came from, the accounting background to now CFO, but also now managing a ton of different teams. And, I think that's where it's really interesting since I've known you of just like kind of almost that chameleon where you're kind of adjusting to what needs to be handled, or you can bring expertise and value from the different past roles that you've had. And so,
mhm.
as I said, for that statistics of just, I kind of was a little shocked just to have that many females in the US be in CFO roles, just because I mean, I know of a few CFO women, but not, I just didn't think it was as many. So, even for you to think back of even your past, was there as many CFOs back then that were females? And how did you even get through that process? Because it is a male dominated industry. And just how did you keep having that determination to keep pushing forward when there wasn't as many females around you in that role?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's always good to have mentors, right? And I was able to open up and have mentors of lots of different characteristics. Some were female, some were male, but trying to pick up and learn from as many people as I possibly could. I often think back to my time in public accounting, and I worked very closely with one of the senior managers who is now a partner there, and he was a huge influence on me because I knew I could ask any question. And he never made me feel dumb by asking it, but it also allowed me to learn so much, right? And continue to raise my hand for new assignments or, new opportunities. And I think, as I do think back to when I started my career and the number of female CFOs that I came across, it was very rare, very rare. And even since my time here at Capital, over the course of 4 years, I'm actually part of a advisory committee for a large, correspondent bank that we use, and we have a team of CFOs and treasurers from all over Wisconsin and Illinois. And when I joined that, I was like the only woman. And they asked me to become vice chair. And I said, I will do that if we can get more women involved. Like, we absolutely need better representation on this committee. And now we have, I think, 9 women,
Ooh.
in a group of about 30 people or so. So those types of things are really exciting to me. And I think, as I think back of like, how did we get here, and how did I continue to push through some of um, those stigmas that might come at you. It's raising your hand, it's continuing to push, not taking things too personal. It's very frequent that I go to an event or meet someone who maybe is a client of the bank or somebody who just isn't familiar with who I am and what I do. And when I say, hi, I'm Amy, I am the CFO of the bank, I often get that like, oh, really? Wow. It's like, yes, yes, I am, and really trying to just own that. But you got to have some thick skin, and you got to be able to just continue to push forward and keep working for what you're passionate on. And I'm super passionate about banking. I also just love leadership and management and continuing to make things better.
Mm. Well, I love that. And I totally know what you're talking about because I feel like too sometimes our age really throws people off where it's
Yeah.
like, how the heck did you get up to this leadership role so fast? What was the fast track that you did to get there? It's like, no, this has been a journey. And no matter how young or old I am, like I have some value that I'm bringing. And I've always loved that. And two, not only are you so busy at work and wearing multiple hats and juggling multiple things, you're a working mother,
Mhm.
as well as one of the top people I always see out and about, always involved in things, always at every event. And so, you know, even talk about that, how you're juggling all of those different things besides even just your normal job.
Yeah. Um, it's not always easy.
Mhm.
Start with that. But, I think it speaks to the importance of being around people who support you wholeheartedly. When I came to Capital, the culture here embraces being involved in the community. I love doing things with some nonprofits that I work with, and getting out and doing business development, and just being part of the bigger business community that we deal with. It's only possible because I have people around me that fully support that and see the value of being out there. But I also have 2 kids at home, and I've got a lot of stuff that I'm juggling there. And I think it really comes down to making sure that the things I'm doing, I'm really passionate about. I don't want to continue to do something if I am only doing it, with half of the passion or no passion, doing it because I feel like I have to. If I'm passionate about what I'm doing, I'm more excited to do it, and then I think it makes sense to prioritize it over something else. And that's really been kind of the driving force as I continue to like pick and choose which things I want to be involved with and which things I maybe don't want to be involved with.
Yeah, and I would say, those things when you're really passionate about it, it really fuels you and really, it's more of a meaning of why you're doing it and spending that time away from your family or from work or whatnot, where it's something that fills your cup up too. So I always love that you're a giver and you're always helping, but also too, you're part of the community. And, a lot of the listeners, because this is a newer podcast, so not if everybody knows my past, but so I was in banking and wealth management for 10 years and I um kind of giggle where you and I have always been kind of on this competitive, I guess you could say, like opportunity. So Amy and I actually grew up playing sports against each other and we were at the two different schools, and then we went and we grew up and we were at two different banks. And then I finally one day clicked to me once I met you of like, oh my gosh, we used to play ball against each other and now look at us. And so the one thing that I've always loved about you is you're similar to me, is it's about that abundance mindset. And no matter where you are or what team you're on, it doesn't matter. It's all about supporting each other and pushing each other and finding that genuine connection because we can learn and grow from each other. And that's the one thing that I've always loved about it, knowing you, is you have that similar mindset to me. And so, you know, what is something that helped you have that mindset of the abundance mindset? What do you think is the leading factor in that?
Honestly, I think it's just sometimes built within people. I think back to when I was younger, like I always wanted to be doing the extracurriculars and, taking on new things. And I think in part I'm just built that way and fully embrace, who I am for those things. But I've also learned the value of those types of relationships, right? Like, even though we may have been competitors, we pushed each other to be better and we were able to leverage one another to, understand new and different things or, share insights that really improve both of us. And at that point, the competition doesn't necessarily matter. It's making both of us better. And, I try to, although I'm a very competitive person in a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
I often try to put that aside and just, think about how can we all be better out of this, right? Because I shouldn't gain because you lose. I should gain because you're gaining, right?
Yeah. I know. And that's where I feel like too, it's always the universe has brought us back for that reason, just because we are very similar minded of that. And that's what I've always just enjoyed about you. And so, for our listeners, so what if someone is a young, ambitious female that really wants to succeed one day? And maybe they're looking at that CFO path, or maybe it's accounting. What would you even tell to your younger self or a listener right now that's listening for some advice?
I think I would say raise your hand for opportunities, right? Continue to push forward, but also don't be so eager that you become, arrogant or, thinking that you're deserving that at this particular moment. If you're working hard and you're doing it genuinely with the right interests at heart, you will get there.
Mm,
And I think it's really a matter of putting yourself out there, trying to be right place, right time, doing all the right things. Success will come along, with all of that. And looks different, right? Admittedly, back in my days of public accounting, I didn't think I wanted to be a partner in a public accounting firm. I didn't think I wanted to be necessarily a CFO. President or CEO wasn't on my list. It's on my list now, right? Like
mm,
you grow and your desires grow, your goals will grow. And I think being patient through that process and knowing that nothing has to happen tomorrow. There's a journey, right? You're not running a sprint, you're running a marathon. It's all of those cliche things, but they truly are what I think you have to continue to remember. Just because you're not where you want to be today doesn't mean you're not going to get there. Continue to work hard, continue to stay true to who you are and your passions, and eventually that will come.
mm. That's some great advice because I feel like, yeah, life, there's gonna be that curveball or that U-turn where you're gonna go back a couple steps, but it's always gonna keep evolving. And you never know too, where right now, for those younger ones, that right now you may have a passion that you really enjoy. But sometimes, like I felt like for me, I almost had my blinders on because I didn't know what else was out there.
Yeah.
So that's what I've always loved about you, is you're always open to new opportunities and seeing how you can help or learn or grow or make a change, like how you were talking about even that board. And I think that's just the thing for, I hope our listeners, are getting that it's just there's no clear cut path to get
Yep.
you to the CFO stage or
Yeah.
to whatever role you want to look for.
Yep.
Mm.
I agree.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on. And I would say, what are some things like, how our listeners can even get in touch with you if they wanted to learn more or to even follow some of the organizations that you're even involved in.
Sure. Well, I am very active on LinkedIn, much like you.
Ah,
Um, that's always a good spot to find me, but also, other social media channels for sure. And if somebody is really interested in sitting down and talking more, reach out. I'm more than happy to grab coffee, go to lunch, whatever it might be, go for a walk or a run. Like, let me know. Um, but I think that's probably the best way. And, just continue to be out there. And thank you again for having me today. It's been such a pleasure.
yes. And I would say we need to go for our coffee and chat. I miss those.
We haven't had one in a while. We need to get out there.
Yeah, I like being active just like you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. And I would say, keep shining in the world because you're really making the world brighter each day. So thank you so much. And I hope the listeners today, if you found a piece of advice or something, share it with somebody else, that could really benefit from it. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining me today.
Thank you so much.